Welcome to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
You were like, what were you, like 13 or 14 when Three Doors Down came out with Kryptonite?
Yeah.
Like you were low teens.
Yeah, so this was over 20 years ago now.
Dang. So did you start to do some solo stuff, then got into Three Doors? Or was Three Doors sort of like the beginning of your career and then you started getting into some solo stuff after that?
I'd always played in bands. As soon as I got out of high school, I didn't go to college. Well, I went to college for like a semester and a half.
Oh, yeah?
Right before that, I'd started a band with some friends back home. And we immediately started like actually playing shows in town and touring.
Okay.
Right before I got out of high school, I was going to a lot of local shows. Like at the time, we had a big rock scene back home. Like everybody was into heavy metal stuff, and
Okay.
always wanted to like be on stage playing with them, and ended up starting this band, and we did that for like 9 years. But we got to do some cool stuff and travel and do all that. So, I think the desire to do some solo stuff was there towards the end, but I was always in bands. So I always saw myself as like just kind of a side guy, playing guitar, playing lead, doing some backup vocals or something. And everything kind of led up to the Three Doors stuff, and then that also opened doors for me to do my solo stuff.
I see. When you were playing in bands, was it mostly guitar, sometimes bass, or was it half guitar, half bass?
It was all guitar.
How'd you wind up in Three Doors if you weren't like an accomplished bass player? This makes no sense.
That's a great question. So fast forward from 18 to, I guess I was like 26 or 27 once I joined the band. It's 27. And the old band, we had a little bit of success here and there doing some stuff. We got to do some cool things. We toured a bunch, like all kind of self-funded DIY punk rock stuff. We got to open for Slash, which was cool, and Korn, Drowning Pool. Like,
wow.
Do some kind of weird, random things here and there, but it never really took off. And in that same time, old band and Three Doors got the same management here in town, which was crazy. And one of my best friends was working for the management company, and he got us hooked up with Chris Henderson, the guitar player for Three Doors.
Yeah.
He's got a studio out in Hendersonville that they've had for years, and he started recording my old band because it was cool. It was
the manager or Chris Henderson?
Chris Henderson, the guitar player.
Has a studio in Hendersonville?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 3 of the guys live out there, and they all work out at the studio.
To this day they do?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Everybody's based here.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Brad, our singer's out in Murfreesboro, and then 3 guys in Hendersonville. I'm out in Hermitage.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good spot to be in.
Yeah. I mean,
when
it's
we used to
Nashville,
tour,
so of course.
it's easy to get
Right.
in and out.
Yep.
But yeah, the studio there, he was recording my band. It was a lot of, like kind of heavy Southern rock stuff and Whiskey and the Devil and screaming and all that, and loved it. We had a lot of fun, but
we need to fix our door out there. People leaving it out. It's like allowed. This is a concrete building, and it's a metal door, so it's like the worst of all worlds. I mean, it's
a lot of echoes.
It is, yeah.
What's it say? Yeah. So whenever he started recording us, around that same time, I started coming over here writing country. I wasn't living here yet, but I was coming over because I'd kind of reignited my passion for country, and got a couple weird opportunities to do some stuff. And then a guy named James House, he's a writer, he wrote a bunch of stuff for Diamond Rio, Dwight Yoakam, Martina McBride, bunch of Joe Bonamassa stuff. Like he's an interesting songwriter. He's still out there doing it, which is cool. But he took me under his wing for about a year and a half and kind of taught me how Nashville songwrites with different people in a room, and instead of just like writing this stream of consciousness weird stuff that like you kind of do whenever you first get started, he'd kind of help me hone in that stuff and write things that people actually wanted to listen to, and how to write stuff for other people and tell a story and melody and composition, all that good stuff that you kind of figure out. So I was over here a lot. Had the same management as Three Doors, so we were kind of constantly doing random stuff when I'd come to town. Like I'd go to a record release that they did, or they'd have something going
I
on in
see.
town, and I was just kind of kept up that relationship with everybody.
Okay.
And also do leather work. So with our charity that the band's been running for 16 years now, they had asked me to do like make flasks or wallets or something as like VIP things for the people whenever we did
3 Doors or your band?
3 Doors.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sorry, I should have specified that. But
Yep.
it's called the Better Life Foundation. It's a really cool
Okay.
charity. But so I was just kind of always around like different events and kept up that relationship with everybody in the band and management and people behind the scenes and stuff. Like everybody just kind of knew me. So fast forward a couple more years, and their bass player got in some trouble here in town, and they fired him. And they called me. They were like, "Hey man, we know you're not a total screw up. Do you think you could figure out bass within the next 3 weeks?" And I was like,
Holy
absolutely.
cow.
So sat down, learned as much as I possibly could, enough to at least like fake it through some songs. And,
Okay.
Came here, we played a song. They were like, "Cool, let's go to Moscow."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So first show and then tour I did was Moscow, Russia, and then we did a month in Europe.
That was your first tour?
Yeah.
Moscow, and then you went to Europe for a month?
Yeah.
After they said about 3 or 4 weeks prior, "Hey man, you want to be bass player for our band 3 Doors Down?
Yeah.
Go learn the bass and then let's go on tour for a month."
Yeah. I was working.
Dang, man. Talk about baptism by fire. I mean,
that's
seriously, that is insane.
I had whatever they call I was at a restaurant I was working at back home.
You were in Nashville at the time?
Yeah. I was
Oh,
in
okay.
Nashville.
You
I
were
hadn't
not
moved-
living in
had not moved
Nashville at the
here
time.
yet. No.
Oh, I see. Okay,
was
you were
coming
living
back
in
and
Nashville. You
forth.
would come back and forth a lot.
Yeah.
And you were coming over here to sort of learn the industry, get around the people.
Yeah.
You were writing some songs or learning about that. So that's what was bringing you here. It,
Yeah.
it was not 3 Doors Down specifically.
Not 3 Doors specifically
Right.
yet. So
Yeah.
I'd been coming over like almost every weekend for a year and a half. Like I'd
I
get off
see.
work and I'd drive over, songwrite for like 2 days, and then drive back.
And when you'd songwrite for a couple of days, that was mostly you're all country?
yeah, that was all country.
So at this point, you're on track for just kind of expanding your career in country music.
Yeah.
Well, I guess not expanding because you weren't doing necessarily country before that, but like you were on a country music trajectory. That's what was bringing you to Nashville.
Yeah, I didn't really know it, but yeah, it definitely was.
I see. And then the 3 Doors thing happened, and you remember where you were at when you got the phone call?
Yeah. Our guitar player, Chris, he called me. He was like, "Hey, man, take this serious." He was like, we're serious about you. It's not a joke. Like, take
Yeah.
it serious and do everything you can to figure this out. And I was like, all right. So
Did any part of you be like, "Man, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I can do this," or was it just like, "Heck yeah, let's go"?
probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Like, I think I had that that weird, like, I don't know, honestly.
I mean, that's a lot of pressure.
Like
man.
thinking about it now, there's like, is it such a, like, it's second nature now to like
Sure.
just go play and do stuff
Right.
with them. But that was definitely like the biggest opportunity that I'd ever had. And I'm sure I second guessed myself a ton. I had, no idea what I was doing, but I knew I was going to work hard and give it every chance I possibly could.
Yeah. How at this point though, how proficient are you on the bass? Like you can play it, you were decent, or you really didn't, you weren't proficient really at all when you just
I could
learned
play it.
Okay.
There was like, I could get through the songs and make it sound like
Okay.
I wasn't hitting the nuances of like what a drummer would be like. Hey man, like this guy's a great bass player.
Okay.
But like,
Yeah.
someone just listening and like it sounded like the songs. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, what's this guy doing?
Yeah.
It's like
I see.
it worked.
Okay.
And it wasn't anywhere near where I wanted to be with it.
Okay.
And like I said, like with bass, you play with the drummer.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of stuff when I first started because Greg, our drummer, is like a phenomenal drummer, phenomenal musician across the board, and he knows how it's supposed to sound and what's supposed to
Okay.
be there. So the first couple of years was very like we were always kind of not really fighting, but it was
Okay.
like, you're doing it wrong. Come on. And
Would
it
he
was
come
like,
to you after the show? And
yeah,
be like,
yeah. Like
"Dude."
we talked a lot about
Okay.
everything, which was a huge benefit for me
Yeah.
going into it and learning. Because I always came from guitar, so like I'm playing stuff and I'm like playing the right notes.
Yep.
Like I'm not playing anything out of time. Like this sounds right. But whenever you got like a really great drummer who
Yeah.
can tell when it's like, hey, this beat needs to be here, this needs to be here. You're
Yep.
like, I didn't even know I was doing anything wrong. So
I see. Yep.
that definitely helped. I guess turn me more into a bass player.
Okay.
With that stuff because it's similar chords. You're doing some similar things as a guitar, so
Yep.
you can get through it. But translating to actually being a bass player is like a totally different mindset. So getting out of lead guitar player and focusing more on bass was something that, with his help, I had to like really focus on and achieve and
Yes.
work towards again. Not just like, oh, cool, I just pick this up and I can play. Like I had to like completely learn like a separate skill.
Right. Was it hard to kind of maintain a good working relationship with him if he was always like giving you pointers and telling you what could have been a little better or if you screwed up or whatever? Was it like harder to have that kind of gel with him because he was working with you so closely or not necessarily?
I think at the beginning when we didn't really know each other,
Yep.
like we knew each other, but we never like played music together.
Sure.
And I think when you're in a situation where you're playing like a stadium somewhere and like
Yeah.
like you're very particular about how this is supposed to sound. Like we definitely butted heads for a while because we'd get done and be like, that was great, and he'd be like, that was shit.
No way.
And like we'd never really fight, but it was always like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about, man? I didn't do anything wrong, and then
Okay.
you find out, like it's like, no, this is how this is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I think initially when we were trying to figure out how to communicate, it was kind of heated sometimes.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I can imagine.
It'd get very frustrating for me because I'd be like,
Okay.
I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like, but I played all the notes right. Like,
Yeah.
it was a great set. Everybody loved it. But there's that level of professionalism again that you get into where it's like, no, this needs to be even better. And looking back on it now, I'm like, it just made me even better at what I'm doing now.
Sure.
Because he was hard on me for it.
Yeah. So that tough love is like it's made you better in the long term.
Yeah.
And how many years have you been with him now?
Going on 8.
Going on 8 years. So was it like in 2013? Is that when you joined? 14?
13.
13. So you're 35 now, 7 or 8 years ago. You're like 27, 28 years old.
Yeah.
When you came on board with Three Doors. So how old were the other guys? At that point, it would be 3 other members in the band, right?
Yeah.
Were they all roughly the same age? And if so, kind of how much older than you? I'm picturing that they were older.
Everybody's
anyway.
about 10 years older than me.
I see.
Close to 10.
Okay.
I think Brad just turned 43, so he's not 10 years older. He's
Yeah.
the other younger guy, but
I see.
and he's been there the whole time. He was very young when the band got started. So,
Yep. And then one other guy has been there the whole time as well, right?
yeah, Chris.
Chris
And then-
and Brad have been there since the beginning.
Yeah, and then Greg, he's been there since basically the beginning. He's
I
he's
see.
like the second drummer I think they had, but he's been there for a very long time.